everyone, I'm Dr. Olena Berezovska, and I'm welcoming today my guest from United States, shiny California, as I understand. And actually, I was reading just a couple minutes ago about your famous castle in this blue swimming pool, like huge castle somewhere in California. I never visited. I guess Hart Castle, something like that. And I was just thinking about California. Okay, so I have a wonderful guest today, and it's Dr. Rachel Baumsteiger from University of California. It's called Poly Pomona, right? Quite
Yes.
strange name. She's the assistant professor in Department of Psychology. Welcome, Rachel. I'm very happy to have you here and have a podcast with you.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yes, and we choose a very interesting topic because Rachel is specializing in prosocial behavior. It's very interesting topic because we never discussed it before with any guests. And we live in society, and the terminology like prosocial behavior, it talks that it's about relationship with society, with people living in society, right? And of course, we hardly think that we have to behave somehow to be successful and be useful, be good with other people. And we usually talk about personal issue, personal thinking here and there, personal success. But we hardly talk about the environment we live in. And that's why I'm very happy. And that we're going to talk about this like direction in psychology, and we're going to talk about this prosocial behavior. So welcome again, and if you can tell a little bit more, what does it mean, and what kind of this like field of psychology, and we will continue because you're going to hear a lot of information that can be very useful in your life. And if you need to know more about my guest, about Rachel, so scroll down the video and you'll see information about the video, more information about this wonderful guest. So welcome again, Rachel.
Thank you. So first off, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to talk about this and share some research with your audience. So I'll start with your question about what does it mean to be prosocial? So at its root, to be prosocial is to be for others. Usually within the literature, we define prosociality as involving intentional actions to try to advance the welfare of other people. So typically we're talking about things like cooperating, sharing, donating. We can think about giving financially versus emotionally or physically. If you help someone move, we can help with a task. We can also volunteer on an ongoing basis versus help one time. So there's a lot of range within the definition. There's also some issues around the for other people piece, because sometimes people talk about prosocial behavior as extending to helping, say, animals or the environment. So they might even connect things like the environment back to people, where they say, I want to take care of the environment in order to make sure it's there for other people. So there's some questions around whether it kind of extends to those areas. Typically it's considered to be under that definition, but most of the time we're talking about more interpersonal behavior. And it can involve something that you do to help someone you're looking at, but it could also be something that you do to help kind of a distant other. If we think about something like, say, donating blood, that might be really helpful to someone, but we don't necessarily see that action. So there's a lot of variety within the definition. I'm really excited about it because it's, I think, a very concrete way that we can contribute to well-being. We see that it helps the recipient of help. So, for example, in the blood donor example, the recipient might save their lives. If you share your lunch with someone, that person has food to eat, but it also helps the person who enacts that help. So it tends to feel good. It helps build relationships. And a lot of people say that they experience a lot of kind of meaning and increased self-worth because it helps them feel better about themselves and what they're doing. It also helps the groups that we're in. So if we look at organizations, sports teams, friend groups, neighborhoods, they all benefit when people feel like they can trust each other and count on each other. So it tends to actually help the functioning of the group as well. So I think it has a lot of potential to help us to promote well-being.
You brought so many thoughts in my mind because starting from environment, and I know we have now new direction in psychology. It's environmental psychology, when actually we're talking about our relationship with nature, with world, with this global warming and other things, right? But at the same time, like, we live in society as, and also you brought this topic about helping, donating. And I remember when I was taking some courses on happiness, and I'm learning about happiness for a long time, just like for many years, let's say, and reading a lot of publications. And we have quite solid evidence, like many research, and they show that people more happy when they have healthy relationship with society, with other people, when they give but have pleasure to give, not just like because they just giver or just take care, but it's a really nice relationship with and very nice feelings when you can help, or when you can donate, when you can support. And quite often nobody teaches how to react, how to help, how to donate. We can hear so many different advices, like like even like from religious point of view. So we have so many discrepancy in all this interpretation of help and donation and everything. But at the same time, yes, and I'm just like thinking, yeah, it's a, like you said, a lot of potentials, because we hardly studied human behavior in society, but from psychological point of view. We usually, like, sociology is different one, right? But it seems to me sociology also plays, even we have social psychology, as I know. But again, it's different from topic what we're going to discuss, because it's more like link between our like personal pro-social, right, and our behavior. It's not behavior of crowd, it's our behavior. So you brought us more closer to personalities, to like who we are. And then it's a link between other people, which is, I think, great, because we hardly talk about this. We talk usually about the crowd, and we talk only about our personal stuff, but because not about this link, like prosocial. I think a prosocial is like bridge between, because you said this is like shows the direction forwards, like I guess from Greek or Latin prefixes. I don't remember, but I mean it's towards, right? And it's great. So what actually kind of like research we have now, and what we would like to say more about like how the perception of our behavior change, and how actually we divided this, not just like personal, we divided a little bit more, and created the bridge between personal and social.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of research on prosocial behavior from a kind of social psych perspective, but it's often looking at how we promote prosocial behavior in that specific situation. So, for example, there's things like the bystander effect, where we're looking at people to help in an emergency situation and what factors are influencing people. But there's also a slightly different perspective, is looking at it from more of a developmental lens, where we look at how do we cultivate a prosocial personality, if you will, or a tendency to help across situations. And that's something that I'm really interested in, especially in thinking about fostering the good qualities among young people. So something that seems to be really important is thinking about how people view themselves, and cultivating what I think of as kind of a prosocial identity. So there's a term called moral identity that's really similar. It's the extent to which people think that being a good person is central to who they are, how they distinguish themselves from others, what guides most of their behavior. And we see that that is highly predictive of all sorts of moral behaviors. Thing is, morality can include prosociality, but it can also include things like being honest or having integrity, which are not necessarily exactly the same thing as doing things to help others. So I've been focusing more on, that's why I'm distinguishing the prosocial identity. But I had an intervention that basically got people to do something to help others each day for 10 days. And it also included some reflection activities that ask them, how does this relate to your values and who you see yourself as? How does this relate to your big goals, the kinds of impact you'd want to have on the world? And by the end of it, I got some really good responses about people talking about how they started to really see themselves through this prosocial lens. And then therefore they were constantly like looking out to help others. We followed up a month later and they wrote things like, just became a habit. I was always looking out to do this because it feels good. It helps them. So I think that a lot of it has to do with just seeing ourselves as the type of person who does these things. And that's something I think we could focus on at any age, but I think we might have especially good opportunity around the time when people are first developing their identities. So perhaps around like adolescence and early adulthood, when people are thinking about things like what kinds of jobs they want to have, what kinds of lifestyles. I think that might be an especially good time for intervention.
I agree that we have to start talking to children at schools, because the psychology, it's not just like what we get in later, like when we become adults and start thinking about our life, our experience. But it starts from beginning, from when the baby is born, because I was surprised when I was reading some medical data that all children are born with a natural smile. And that this natural smile, but they smile into the wall, right? Like, and sometimes parents think, oh, they smile into me. No, they actually smile into the wall. It's natural smile. I cannot say it's a reflex, whatever. It's just like given us by nature. But then I read that by age 6 months, the natural smile will be replaced slowly by social smile. And it's actually affected by parents, because they would say, don't smile to this lady and don't smile to this man, just smile to father and mother, so smile to me, right? And this is how we get this smile on demand, and we call it social smile. And then natural smile, step by step, is replaced by social smile. And I'm not sure if we still have this natural smile. Probably we have, because I even if I look at myself, I'm smiling a lot, and it's natural. It's not that I try. It's just like I'm a smiling person. And some people surprised that I'm smiling, so much. But it's not that I'm trying to play a fool or whatever, or do it like it's natural. But I don't know how many people have natural smile or they do socially. But even socially, sometimes we need social smile as well. But you see how it's interesting that starting from the age when we're born, we dealing with people, with society, with environment. So, and usually we talk about this when we're 20 plus 25, usually 30, especially when the wisdom comes. And we know the wisdom comes usually after 30, when we start analyzing logically, analytically better, and then see some kind of connection, association. And it's true. What actually I was thinking when you were telling this, like when you were telling us about prosocial activity before, I was thinking about prosocial and antisocial. I found it's like antisocial, extremely popular. Like we hear more antisocial than prosocial, because from my point of view, many people think prosocial is to be prosocial is to be weak, like weakness. At the same time, to be antisocial it's kind of cool. I'm antisocial. And when I ask some people who tell me I'm antisocial, so explain me what does it mean, and I don't see any good answer. I don't hear any good answer. I mean, it's just like style. It's kind of like, especially from among young people. But even like one secretary at the hospital, she was telling us, I'm prosocial, I'm prosocial. And because she's not married, but at the same time, she's very caring person. And she cares about her niece. She cares about other people. We had like, dinners together, suppers together. So I cannot say she's prosocial, antisocial. She works in a hospital. And I said to her, if you come home and stay alone and you don't want to go anywhere because you're tired, you just get used to live like that. But I don't see any antisocial behavior. But she likes to say she's antisocial. And if you tell more a little bit of antisocial, I mean, from your point of view, is it just a stream or it's influence of TV and any kind of this moment to be in some way antisocial? I don't know. So what do you think about this? And if it's normal to be antisocial from time to time, let's say.
Yeah, I think I'm realizing as you're describing this that I think there's two different ways that people use the word antisocial. So within the literature, antisocial means that you are doing things to harm other people. So it's talking specific about like bullying or other types of aggressive behavior. And it sounds like these people are not doing any of those things. But there's also, I think, colloquially a term antisocial just to mean I don't like to socialize. I'm more of an introvert, or I'm not as outgoing as other people. I like my alone time. And I think that's a very different meaning than I am harming people. It's hard to imagine someone like bragging about, I like to harm people. I think they might be saying, I'm to myself and I'm my own independent person. But interestingly, so the term antisocial came out in the literature before prosocial did. So we as researchers focused on kind of the dark side first, which is very traditional for us historically as psychologists. So prosocial came out specifically as an inverse phenomenon to antisocial. And it was people saying, well, we can do horrible things to each other, but can we actually do good things to each other? So it's the inception of the term and how we study it was bouncing off of the antisocial construct.
I think that prosocial is not weakness as people might think, because when I was taking this test from about my character strengths, and one of my strengths, the very like strong, it's social intelligence, where it says that I love people, I try to help, I understand people, and so on. And it's true because I'm quite often, I can easily say I love people when other people, or I hate people. Even if they hurt me, I still say, there are a lot of good people, I love people. So I'm not ashamed to say I love people. I live among people, even if I'm not like the person who would be too noisy towards other people. I like loneliness sometimes. I like to be alone. I like to concentrate. So I'm okay when I'm alone. I'm not struggling that I have nobody beside me but when actually other people probably would like to have a lot of people around. And I know some people, they cannot live without this kind of like team of a group of people. And yes, it's kind of like I can see. But what is interesting, like for me, was like confirming that whatever I had, like whatever people tried to tell me that to love people is not normal, that society is sick, and here and there, like look how rotten, how bad, how many wars, how many this. I said, I understand that society like have a lot of problems, has a lot of problems, but at the same time, like I'm dealing with people, a lot of people that I like and I love. And even through this podcast, I met so many wonderful people from around the world, and some of them we became friends, which is show that if I'm looking for pro-social people who would say that they would like to deal with people, to help them to live better, to be better, which is normal, I think. And that's why prosocial is not weakness, in my opinion, and I'm sure you probably will confirm. And especially now when we have this prosocial behavior study, when we can say that it's actual, it should be, because it's much more easy to damage someone than to fix a problem, and especially through our behavior, right? And can you tell us a little bit more about this behavior? So is there any elements we have to, like, follow? Or I'm not talking about rules, but let's say something that we call like prosocial behavior, but what we can take from practical point of view, and how we can change even our behavior towards other people.
Yeah, I think one issue around prosocial behavior is there's a question of altruism, which people always ask, well, is it really prosocial if you get something out of it? And so a lot of people feel like it's like not worth doing, or it's not real in some way if they're like, well, I feel good after, so that's really helping me, so therefore it's no longer helping behavior. I personally think it's an interesting question, but also I think it's fine if you help people and it also helps you and it feels good. I think that is good reinforcement and good feedback to us to say, oh, this is something that's worth doing if we know that, if it aligns with our values. So that is kind of one thing that I would just encourage people to like let go of, if that's what's holding them back, is that it like doesn't count if if they get something out of it. And another thing is, I think for a lot of people, they think that doing something to help others is going to take a lot of time, energy, resources, and that they're not going to they don't really have the capacity, the potential to make a big difference. Like in that intervention that I mentioned, I had some questions at the end that were kind of about what are some things that you learned about this from this study. And something that came up for a lot of people was around those issues. So they said things like, it really didn't take that much time and energy. I learned I actually have plenty of time in the day if I kind of start just paying attention to other people's needs a little bit more, and am in that mindset of thinking about, where can I jump in and offer a little help here and there, do something to pick up someone else's day. Some people even did things like sent a quick text to people to say, I appreciate this about you and I hope you have a great day, or something like that. So they said it actually, like a lot of the things that they did not take a ton of time. And they also said that the ways that other people responded were much bigger than they expected. And other people seemed so grateful when they did something to lend a hand. And so they said, wow, like I realize it doesn't take that much, and I have the potential to do kind of a lot of good. So I think when people kind of just start and give it a try, I mean, we all do things, I think, naturally to help other people, but kind of try out just putting themselves in that mindset for a little bit. Think of, maybe start with one day, or maybe do like a 3-day challenge. I think that will start to kind of take down those misconceptions of, I don't have time to do this, because I think a lot of us feel just extremely busy. So it's we don't want to hear one more thing we have to do, but it's actually not that time consuming, and it's really valuable.
When you mention altruism, and I know there is like pathological altruism when we probably spend too much time with other people instead of, but I'll actually have a family we friendly for more than 20 years, like wonderful friends. And I met this family when I was traveling in Europe. I'm not going to mention the country and the place, but I traveled with my disabled friend, extremely disabled, and it was just like, it was my promise to travel to some place that she wanted. And because the hotels were not accommodated for disabled people in Europe, it's still like, a problem. One family she knew invited us to the house. And of course, I was so happy that we live in somebody's house and it's wonderful environment and people are so friendly. So I became friend with every member of this family. And I was surprised that the mother, she actually spent a lot of time. She was religious. She spent a lot of time outside of the family helping people, like disabled people, poor people. And it was her like mission. And she was so concentrated on helping other people that she stopped paying attention on her children. And actually, there was some tragedy in a family because one of the son suicide. But what is interesting that, in spite that she had problem with children, even with her husband, I cannot say even one bad word about her because I know she's so kind. But this is altruistic, like, you know, she tried to replace probably like she wanted to be needed, I guess, in a family. Maybe she didn't have nice relationship with children and husband in a way of appreciation because she cooked, she cleaned, right? But probably she needed more attention, more appreciation, more thank you. And this, at the same time, every member is like, I love all of them. I cannot even say even one word about all of them. They're unique, like, but when actually step by step she came back to family and she was raising the grandchildren, helping with grandchildren. So anyway, the end is like happy ending, right? But what I would like to say that this altruistic moments, like, I don't know if she was like extremely altruistic, helping other people, but at the same time ignoring and abandoning her family members. Maybe it was compensation what she needed. Maybe it was her nature, right? And I see this type of people, and that's why we cannot say who's altruistic. Some people call me extremely altruistic, but I take care of my family members. I cannot say that I'm just like only about other people, but even to be altruistic, it means to love other people, even in a family, because egoistic, it means like we love ourselves, right? And everyone we love outside ourselves, it's actually other people. So I disagree that altruistic, it's only about like people like we hardly know, or let's say not very close family members. And maybe there is a conflict there between altruism and egoism, because some people say you have to love yourself, because if you don't know how to love yourself, you don't know how to love other people, which is I also cannot accept as like normal expression, because I realize that people have absolutely different meaning of love. And my meaning of love, my opinion of what love is, it's absolutely different from somebody else. And I cannot say that this person is wrong, right? That's why when it comes about altruism, egoism, and then prosocial and antisocial, it's quite individual. And sometimes we don't know everything about this person or people. And sometimes we probably treat them from our point of view without understanding what they went through, how they feel, and many other things we hardly like know about this people, right? And that's it's not, that's why it seems to me to be prosocial and prosocial behavior, it's just to be kind to people and try to understand people, try to understand yourself and your own reaction in some way, because my other strength is forgiveness. And I had many times, oh, you forgive everyone. I don't forgive everyone, but I don't want to feel and I don't want to be angry. I don't want to feel negativity towards people, even if they hurt me a lot, even if they offended. But I usually stop this negative thoughts, because I would rather be neutral than I would be in this negative condition, because it affects my health. That's why I cannot say that I forgive everyone, but I prefer peace in my mind, in my body. I prefer something positive than negative, even if it hurts me. And maybe I learning as well this how to behave to people that hurt me or did something wrong, how to forgive. I found it's a challenge of my life. I'm learning something, right? I cannot be expert in forgiveness. Don't even ask. I cannot be expert. As well, I cannot be expert in altruism. I cannot be expert in many other things, because going through life, I found it's like a school for me. It's like learning every day something new. And even talking to you, I start kind of thinking, okay, it's interesting thought. Okay, I never thought about this way. And I'm really appreciating that you're talking about this and so openly. And finally, we have this prosocial behavior direction in psychology, right? From your opinion, where are we going now? Like more, I mean, where actually this direction goes, and what kind of research we have now ongoing, let's say.
Yeah, I would love to talk about that. So, one of them is that we started out defining, measuring, and trying to understand prosocial behavior with a very unidimensional perspective on it. So we looked at it as all prosocial behaviors are the same. You're going to behave prosocially or not. But now we are moving more and more towards a multidimensional model of prosocial behavior where we can try to understand more of the nuances of the conditions under which people help or the types of help that they're giving. So I've already mentioned a few different ways between like emotional versus financial versus physical. But we can think about helping in front of people or not. Those might have different motives. We can think about helping in an emergency versus something like caretaking, where you're helping every single day. We can think about different recipients of help is very important. So as you were kind of alluding to, we can think about helping people who are really close to us versus helping strangers. And again, we see very different patterns of what predicts that and what are the outcomes of each of those. So one direction we're moving towards is just looking more into all of the different variation in prosocial behaviors and the different antecedents and outcomes of each of those. A second one is that the field altogether is moving more and more to having more diversity in terms of our samples, and also in terms of the researchers who are actually doing the work. So a lot of this work kind of started out with a lot of European and American researchers, largely male. And we're getting a more and more diversity in terms of gender, race, age, looking at people from all different kinds of cultures, to look at more of a prosocial behavior as a universal construct and not the prosocial behavior of very specific people within very specific cultures. So that, I think, is going to take us quite a while. I think we have lots of opportunity there. And then a third one is about trying to look at promoting prosociality beyond just like a one-time situation and looking more at this kind of prosocial and think of personality, or looking at fostering prosocial habits. And that's something that I'm really interested in, is trying to build these patterns of prosocial thinking and prosocial behavior that goes beyond just one action.
I read today quite interesting quote somebody posted on Facebook, and it says that we from a generation when children were listening to parents and follow parents' rule, and now we listening to our children, and children actually have their own rules, right? Which is true, because I was trying to understand the relationship with my children and like other families, like, and I realized it's true, we gave a lot of freedom to our children, but also we respect them more. We respect the choices. We actually are not the same like our parents were. And at that time when I grew up, it was normal to be obedient and whatever mother says, whatever father said, right? And at the same time, like we had limited choices as well. And I actually grew up in a lot of freedom, which is I respect as well, that my parents gave me a lot of freedom. But comparing to some other people, I can say that their choices were not just like free. And at the same time, I give my children a lot of freedom, and I see some results, even negative results from a lot of children. Still, I'm not complaining. I'm just telling, like, yeah, even the behavior, the process of behavior, like with people, and especially young generation, It's not the same like ours. That's why we cannot compare even in psychology. Everything what was done or researched like, many years ago. And as you said, yeah, it was mostly like male behavior because the students and mostly students behave, because I know that in many studies, the students were involved, and it's absolutely different mentality, different generation, different like purposes in life.
Mm-hmm.
And, and that's why we cannot take everything we found even in old publications as the true data at the moment, really. And probably our children, our grandchildren would have absolutely different opinion. I would say, no, was like 100 years ago. Now we have completely different. And they would be right. Anyway, psychology is still a baby because it was forbidden or forgotten or wasn't accepted properly. And I think only now it's that flourishing, and we finally have such a good variety of direction where psychology just booming. And one of them, it's like direction towards society, towards people, and not just like society as a group. I really appreciate like what you said, and it's a topic that we continue to talk, but our time is running out. And in the end, I usually ask my guests to say a few words, like some advices, let's say, or some tips regarding the topic we discussed, something practical that they can use in their own life.
Sure. One thing I would say is that a lot of times when people are feeling down, if they're feeling disconnected, disappointed, lonely, all of these things, sometimes there is an inclination to isolate. But I think that if you're in that situation, if you do something to reach out to other people, and especially do something to help others, so put yourself in that other oriented mindset, that often is really effective at getting you out of that kind of down emotional place. But it can also help you build connections that will then support you going forward and start. We think of it as kind of an upward spiral of reach out, then that person will support you, you'll support them, something will build over time. I guess my advice is to fight the urge to just isolate and pull back from people all of the time, and try to push yourself to do more reaching out, and maybe to some places that you haven't reached out to before, haven't thought about before, and see that it might help you. At the very least, it should help them.
Wonderful. And I remember I was talking to some other guest about helping people. And first of all, everybody should understand that if we don't hear the word help me, sometimes we cannot understand that this person needs a help. That's why I always say, help me or ask for help. And at the same time, even if we don't say help, maybe we should learn how to express ourselves that other people would understand us better and we would understand other people better. So listen to other people, watch the behavior, analyze the words. And sometimes the word help me would be and kind of expressed differently, but definitely this person needs your attention. And as you said, that's important to have some time for yourself and be away from other people. But also, it's important to be in a crowd. And honestly speaking, like I start making jewelry because it's part of my art and art therapy, and I actually really love this. But I realized I need to go and see people. I need to go to see other masters. I need to see what people are selling. I need to socialize. And so I start going to different art shows and markets. And even my husband has a pleasure to go with me and see this movement around and this atmosphere and, positive feelings. And it doesn't matter if you sell or not. Just important thing that we among people like us, and we learn something from everyone who's bringing their own stuff. which is actually a very amazing experience. And I said, I miss it, you know. I cannot just sit in my studio on weekends or whatever and do these beautiful things. I want, like, you know, to see other people who's doing the same beautiful things. And it's true, a balance, a balance. And if you're tired, it's okay. If you want more energy, an energy of crowd, then it's normal. So this is like we call prosocial behavior, right? Thank you,
Yes.
Rachel. Yeah, thank you very much for this interesting conversation. I enjoy it very much. And I hope we'll see again each other and we talk about some other interesting topics regarding our behavior and especially towards people or behavior of people towards us. So
Yes,
thank you
that
very
sounds
much.
great.
Yeah, thank you very
Thank you
much.
for
And
having
please
me.
subscribe to my channel and see the information about the video. You'll see more information about Rachel. And if you want to talk to her or write to her, please like contact Rachel and discuss any question you need to discuss or read her publications or whatever, reach her. Okay. So bye-bye, everyone. And bye-bye, Rachel. I'll see you next
Bye.
time.
Thank you.